Hey, my name is PolishLynx and it's almost 3 AM when I start recording. What have I been doing for all that time? I seriously don't know. Problematic? Well, whatever. Finally, I have to move on with this irae. After leaving the club, I walked the streets of a shopping district with Mari in tow. This city wasn't in the boonies, but walking around with a foreign girl at night really did make me stand out. I could feel a load of curious stares. That happened during the day as well, but at a time like this I'd have to... No, wait, after a few things I took hold of Mari's hand again.
な、どこか行きたいところはある？
行きたいところ？
あ。
Having said that for, she only knew a handful of places across town.
じゃあ、タワーに。
I somehow knew she'd say that. Can we access it at night? Once we arrived, Mary stared at the lit up tower with a blank expression.
綺麗だね、レン。
Due to being a bit of a date spot, the place was fairly crowded, even at night. Still, I figured it was much safer than the shopping district. Seeing how everyone here was busy being focused on themselves, they didn't bother paying attention to anyone else. No longer having to endure dozens of stairs sizing us up, I finally allowed myself to relax a little, and sat down on a nearby bench with Mari. Okay then, now what? I knew what to do and felt fully prepared to do it, but had no concrete plan. The edge in my neck remained the only reliable way to find my enemies, but I couldn't count on that all the time. Drawing their attention could work, but would only end up involving innocent civilians, which put me in a bit of a deadlock. Now that I flat out rejected Shiro, I couldn't count on his intelligence network. And blindly looking for the bastards probably wouldn't yield any results either. It would help if I could predict where they'd show up, but that wasn't happening. As I continued aimlessly pondering all that, I felt someone tugging my sleeve.
ねえ、レン、あれ見て。
Mari pointed to a man and woman a short distance away. They appeared to be a couple.
あの人、どうして泣いてるの？
いや、なんでだろうな。
I found myself slightly bewildered by having to suddenly face such a realistic topic. The woman was crying as the man continued comforting her. A common sight, really.
どこか痛いのかな？
どうだろ
う。何かね、女の人がごめんなさい、ごめんなさいって言ってるよ。それで、男の人は気にしてないとか、平気だからとか、そんな感じ。あの人たちは何を話してるのかな？
It's not nice to eavesdrop, you know.
I
was surprised by how sharp her ears seemed to be, but to my misfortune that only led to Mari once again taking interest in something rather troublesome. From what I could gather based on Mari's comments, the man appeared to have either confessed to her and was turned down, or there was something else she did along those lines. She was apologizing for having hurt him.
あれは別に痛くて泣いてるわけじゃないと思うぞ。
どういうこと？
心が痛くて泣くってこともあるんだけど、多分あれはそうじゃない。
The situation seemed totally flipped on its head. The man probably should have been the one doing the crying, but seeing how the woman broke down in tears first, he could neither cry himself nor blame her. Talk about one messed up turn of events. It felt like I witnessed something I shouldn't have, but now that I had been asked, I decided to explain how I felt about it.
あれは演技っていうか、自己暗示っていうか、とにかく一種の保身かな。マリーはあの人を見てびっくりしたろ？泣いてるやつってのは割と特別扱いされるから。ああいう場合、具体的に言うと、泣けば優しくされるんだよ。
Even the wrongdoer could become the victim. Convincing the other party that you were suffering as well could help settle things without making you out to be the bad guy.
要するに、私かわいそうだからいじめないでって言ってるんだよ。
Mari told her in confusion. Admittedly, it was all speculation on my part, but after watching them for a while, it appeared I wasn't far off the mark.
うわ。
The woman suddenly slapped the man.
今のはどうして？
多分、男が嫌味でも言ったんじゃないか。
I had nothing but sympathy for him as a fellow man. You saw this kind of situation all the time above real life and the world of fiction, but I had no clue how one was supposed to properly handle it. Okay, so first, well, I don't know if it's true what they were talking, but the guy proposed, he got rejected, and what, he talked shit about her? It doesn't make sense at all. So I'd say to reverse the question.
マリーは、ああいう女の気持ちとかわかる？
わかんない。ごめんなさいって謝るなら、謝った方が悪いんだよね。なのになんでか、最後は男の人が悪いみたいな感じになっちゃった。ああいうことが当たり前なの？
どうだろうな。
As strange as it was, if the majority end up believing in something, then it suddenly will become an accepted truth in our society. In the end, that was probably just life.
例えば、かすみなら、なんて言うと思う？
Eh?
さあ。
Would she be pissed off by the woman's attitude, or would she insisted sympathize? What? Oh, instead, not insisted. Oh my god. Instead sympathize with her. Either way, she would no doubt say something extreme. Still, I felt like I was being a bit biased the whole time, so I decided to back the woman up a little.
まあ、結局のところ感情が抑えられなかっただけかもしれないな。最後のビンタはともかくとして、謝りながら泣くっていうのは正直わからないこともない。
Self-hatred for having done something horrible. Guilt at having hurt the man. She knew Craig made her cowardly, but once she started, the tears wouldn't stop, leading to one vicious spiral.
ある意味、ああいうのの方がすごく人間らしいことかもしれない。どっちが正しいとか間違ってるとか全部理屈で説明ついたら、それはそれでつまんなそうだし。意識せずにって前提なら、矛盾も必要じゃないかと思うよ。
I felt a little embarrassed. That sounded unlike me. Mari's expression, however, remained sincere.
じゃあ、レンは白って人にも、そういう気持ちを持ってるんだね。
She may have just poured salt into my wound.
レンは白に怒ってたけど、嫌いなわけじゃないんでしょ？
I was convinced I never want to see him again, but when I did meet him, I felt somewhat relieved. He generally pissed me off, and I couldn't care less if he died in a ditch somewhere, but I didn't want him to get caught up in all this. And Kasumi being worried about him was true, not just some flimsy excuse.
別に、あんなのただのバカ野郎だよ。昔からあいつが絡んでくるとろくなことが起こらない。だから自衛っていうか、つまり自分のためにやったことで。俺はもう、あいつに引っかき回されるのはうんざりなんだよ。ただ、それだけ。
Mari smiled as she listened to me complain, but contrary to what I expected her to say.
レン、かわいいね。
Isn't he supposed to say that? First Kasumi, then Himura, Rosaka, and now even Mari had labeled me as such. Well, I don't really feel like it's anything to be angry about. But for some reason, it didn't irritate me as much as this time. Sure, it was embarrassing, but I couldn't find myself to make a comeback.
多分、また会えると思うよ。だってシローは、レンのことが大好きだから。
It's not that kind of game, right? No. I don't remember seeing anything about that route. No.
ああ、
Could she, like, stop saying things that made me sick to the stomach and could also potentially be taken the wrong way? He was like a curious kid faced with a pet or a toy, wanted to play around with it until it broke. All he cared about was having fun, even if it led targets of interest to an early grave. But that still didn't mean I understood him. Still, I gave an exasperated shrug and stopped complaining. Just then,
レン、どうかした？
人が。
there were a fair number of people around us until a moment ago, but now it was just the two of us. That couple from before was smothering nowhere in sight. I felt my entire body being covered in goosebumps as a dull edge began to drop in my neck. Could it be?
マリ、すまない。話の続きはまた後でしよう。
I wrapped my arm around her.
本当に悪い。できるだけこうやって表に出してやりたかったんだけど。
Mara was essentially a ghost. The only reason I could talk to her like this was because I had been maintaining her in the physical world through my yetzira. And now I had to change her form into something else entirely. And all in order. Ooh. To fight or to protect her? I mean... if I would go protect her, I might get the roots that we were supposed not to get, I feel like. Because we'll get her feelings turned on, if you could say that. And he's actually only thinking about himself if we go with the flow of the game. Or something like that. So not really, he's thinking about protecting everyone actually. So there is someone around, so basically I feel like he's thinking he's going to fight here. Okay, let's go. To defeat those bastards.
マリ、いいよな。
I could undo the formation for a moment and return her to my body. It was probably possible if I concentrated really hard, but I wanted her consent first. Mary looked right into my eyes.
いいよ。
Smiling, she nodded at me as her body vanished, instantly giving birth to a certain wave in my right arm. I could feel her dwelling within. I took a deep breath, then rose to my feet.
出てこいよ。
I could perceive my surroundings with renewed sharpness, possibly due to the Mari having returned to me. This was no longer a public square teeming with people. It had transformed me into a battlefield heavy with bloodlust with each breath I took, sapping me of stamina.
少しはやれるようになったか、ガキ。
Yo. And the source of the bloodlust now descended from above. I immediately jumped backwards as the spot I'd been standing on earlier was smashed apart by something invisible. The paved ground had been pierced, leaving behind a deep hole. Almost like a stake had been driven right into it.
目を開け。肌で感じろ。古い目玉はえぐって捨てろや。今ならてめえにも見えるだろう。
See what? The man's mocking tone rang familiar in my ears. There was no way I'd ever forget that voice. His aim might have been off, but it was definitely him. Well,
ビルヘルム。
I know who that was. The ivory demon cackled as his entire body executed a demonic aura into heat haze, much like last time. But things would be different this time. He nearly killed me the night before as I had no way to fight back. Not anymore, though. I now had both a weapon and a reason to fight. As I put myself on guard, Wilhelm continued staring at me with eyes that glowed a bright hue of crimson even behind his sunglasses. The color of... You lost the hue in color of undiluted rapture.
てめえ、シピーネをやりやがったよな。とりあえず褒めてやる。これでちったマシな戦争になりそうじゃねえか。
His tone displayed not a speck of rage, of sorrow. Over his comrade's demise. I had no interest in these bastards' personal relations, but it appeared he didn't merely come here to exact revenge.
しかしまあ、 実際情けない話だわな。お前みたいなガキにやられたシュピーネも、最初の人探しに外れつかまされ続けたこの俺も。なあよ、正味に欲求不満だぜ。お前責任取ってくれるか？おい。
Watch your words because it really might be taken the wrong way, man. Seriously, it's the second moment in this episode already. Raising his right hand, Wilhelm focused all his wicked energies into it, just like earlier when he...
試験だ。どの程度のもんか見てやるよ。
An invisible impact came flying from... No wait, not quite invisible. Open your eyes, filter your skin, gouge out your old eyeballs and throw them away. Alter my perception, returning my to the supernatural, the extraordinary, and with that... What the heck is that? I could see it, comprehend it. This was a stake. Seriously? A fang to pierce all in its path. Wilhelm's Irrationality. Vampire Hunter? I dodged it, not by relying on sheer instinct, but through sight, a feat impossible to the average person, but very much within the realm of possibility for someone like me, who had already mastered formation. Let's not go with mastered. Maybe. Following a tempest of stakes, Wilhelm closed in on me without missing a beat. As soon as I dodged a blow from the right, he launched a kick at my temple. His strides came faster than ever before, and a third one there would have likely killed me, had I still been my former weak self. However...
はぁ、やるね。大したもんだ。
Guarding his attacks with my arms left them numb. I felt a shock into an explosion going off in my temples, but I still remained conscious. Wilhelm's blows smashed the pavement, broke large trees, and shattered iron fences. No normal human could have blocked them, yet I was standing. It hadn't quite sunk in back when I fought Spinner, but there was no longer any room for doubt.
その丈夫さから見る限り、どうやら形成異界まで行ったらしいな。
My blood was just as inhuman as these freaks.
いいね。そそるぜ。たまんねえ。戦はこうでなくしやつまらねえ。てめえも出せ。見せてみろ。これまで待っててやったんだ。さぞかしいい具合に育ってんだろ。ちんたら素手でやり合ってても、俺は生物以外じゃやらねえぞ。
My neck and right arm began to age, as though in concert with Wilhelm's ecstatic outburst of joy. In contrast to Mari's purity, the guillotine was a concentration of bloodlust and malice, perceiving the aura of kindred being. It audibly recomposed my body. But I couldn't allow it to run berserk. Unless I kept a tight hold on the reins and my sanity, I wouldn't be able to defeat these bastards, but provided I could do all that, they were by no means invincible. But as those very thoughts flashed through my mind...
前にも自重しろと言ったはずだが、米中。
Oh, come on! Not you! I realized it only applied to one-on-one fights. Something like this would complicate matters.
桜井。
With her joining the fray, the battle had now turned to a 2-on-1 encounter. Hardly unpredictable, but I'd be lying if I said this didn't make things more dangerous. Go away!
よーレオン、てめえ突っ込んでやがれよ。このガキは俺の獲物だ。渡さねえ。もう鬼ごっこは終わったんだ。クリストフがてめえに渡した試験なんざ今は何の意味もないんだぜ。
分かっている。だがその芸家からの新たな命令を忘れたのか。お前に任せたら殺すだろ。
After practically speaking out the words, Sakurai turned back towards me.
こんばんは藤井君。一応聞いておくんだけど、今から私たちについてくる気はあるかしら。
Go! Go to hell! The hell, I found myself complete loss. What did she mean by come with us?
生産杯芸家が会いたがっている。今夜の私たちはあなたを彼のところへ連れて行くのが仕事なの。
Yeah, divine visual, don't joke.
生産杯だと
Spine used that taunt to refer to their current commander, so talking to him would mean walking right to their main base. What the dog?
抵抗しなければ危害は加えないと約束するけど。
Sorry, but your word means nothing to me.
アホらしい。おいやめろやレオン。危害を加えるだの加えないだのそういう問題じゃねえんだよ。こいつは俺らとやり合う気だ。言うことなんか聞きやしねえ。だからよ、連れて行くならぶちのめすしかねえだろうが。
I hate to admit it, but Wilhelm was right. I had no intention of accepting any offers from them. And there was a bit of a silver lining to this overwhelming disadvantageous situation. If they were not actively trying to kill me, there was no reason for me not to take advantage of that. Besides,
お前ら、さっきまでここにいた奴らをどこにやった？
ああ？
殺したのか？
いいえ、そんなことはしていない。あなたを刺激しないようにただの人払いをしただけよ。それをもってこちらの誠意を組んでくれると助かるけど。
okay, you could have just said yes and stop, I don't know, phrasing something differently.
どうやら聞く耳持たないようね。
I told you, your word means nothing to me. She narrowed her eyes. I had no clue exactly how powerful she was, but I knew I couldn't take her lightly. In all honesty, I didn't feel too hot about having to fight a woman either, but whatever.
おら！突っ込んでろっつったのが聞こえなかったのか？てめえはよ。
そっちこそ芸家の命令を守る気があるのかないのかはっきりしてほしいんだ。
Alright, you know what? I don't like her for one more reason. She looks like the type of person that would, well, referring to normal world, let's say, would be willing to, if you refer to work, basically, we have boss and a freaking person working under that boss, so basically she would be the type of person that would clean up the ass of the boss, and that makes me even, well, more dislike her even more, I think. Or maybe that's her play only and she is actually not like that. We'll see about that sooner or later. But yeah, when we talk about people like that, I don't like them. I mean, not playing to be someone else, but the first option.
このまま言い合ったところで平行線だ。早い者勝ちで納得しろ。
That's actually one of the rules in logistics. I mean, some time ago. Oh yes, some time ago. God damn it! I'm speaking so much bullshit today. But yeah, we had that first in, first out. Yeah.
面白い。
Wilhelm's expression had shifted to a sneer, while Sakurai's to a look of disappointment as they both turned to face me.
さっきも言ったけど藤井君、無駄な怪我をしたくなければ変な抵抗をしないでちょうだい。
Yeah, you are clever because it's 2-on-1.
いや、俺は歓迎だぜ。てめえも男なら血ヘド吐いてあがき倒せや。
The first strike came from Wilhelm at a speed outclassing all his previous attacks, yet I managed to dodge it by a hair's breadth.
武器は使うなよ、レイ。
Oh, don't shit yourself. A kick flew at me from above at about the exact same time. I expected those two to be out of sync, given their conflicting personalities, but their timing was impeccable. I barely managed to defend myself with my arms, but the hard impact echoed all the way to my tiptoes. The enemy fighting barehanded didn't mean I owed them the courtesy to the same, but if I kept up with these rapid fire attacks, I wouldn't have time to form my Ahlan airbag. As a result, I was forced to fight a defensive battle while still barehanded. My two opponents' attacks were as starkly contrasted as their personalities. In other words, Wilhelm fought like a beast with effective speed and strength that completely ignored any sense of form. That's the type I would prefer actually to use. While Sakurai writes and disgustingly precise hand-to-hand fighting moves straight out of a textbook. Okay, so basically, if you know the moves, you can easily freaking defend yourself. Because it's predictable that way. She's basically completely predictable. You can read all her moves if you want to. Large wide swings from the former and quick compact strikes from the latter, the combination of which allowed no room for counterattacks. Things would just keep getting worse for me if this kept up. I still hadn't taken any direct blows, but it would eventually whittle down my stamina, so now was my only chance. Wasn't your stamina unlimited? Now? I took Sakurai's kick head-on without dodging it, as I wouldn't be able to counterattack unless I allowed one of them to hit me. There was no other choice. At the very least, taking one of her attacks would probably not render me unable to do battle. The kick into my solar plexus ended up being stronger than I had anticipated, but not to the point of crushing my organs. Putting aside my newfound resilience, Sakurai was likely not lying about not wanting to kill me. I grabbed her ankle, dragging it towards me. With the three of us all lined up in a straight line, Wilhelm could no longer reach me. Got him. Or so to think. I think he wouldn't even mind hitting her there. Paying no heed to that, Wilhelm launched another attack. Was he seriously planning to strike right through Sakurai? Yes. Alert to the danger, Sakurai attempted to twist her body without freeing herself from my grasp, but she was a moment too late. Just as my mind's eye pictured Wilhelm's arm piercing right through Sakurai's chest and reaching my face. That future ended up averting the nick of time. The fact that Sakurai used her free leg to kick Wilhelm made to sending all three of us flying away from each other was not even worthy of mentioning. No, instead, I heard a gunshot. What gave me more cause to surprise was the gunshot that rang out right before that. It saved both me and Sakurai. The second one not important here. Wilhelm stood up, his smirk completely gone, for his voice was quiet, his tone carried evident indignation. But not because he had been kicked by Sakurai or robbed of his chance to kill me. It was the gunshot that set him off. Spinning out the bullet he caught between his teeth, the Ivor demon let out a rasping growl.
クソガキが、てめえよっぽど死にたいらしいな。
Sure. And only then did I realize that Shiro Yusa had been staying back to back with me with an invincible smirk that showed up a complete lack of interest in Wilhelm's rage.
おうおう、相変わらず丈夫な歯してるな、お前。実は小魚とか好きなんだろ。
His tone reflected not a shred of fear. The goddamn idiot. I told him to get involved, but yet...
お前。
ヨーレン、今のはチート危なかったんじゃねえの、実際。その辺、俺に感謝の言葉とかないのかよ。なあ、そっちの姉ちゃん、お前もだよ。日本人なら礼儀正しく行こうや、お互い。別にお前を助ける気なんかなかったけど、結果的にそうなったんだから、何か言うことがあるんじゃねえの？
Like me. She replied to Shiro's musical remark with silence. I can't tell if she was exasperated, confused, or perhaps both. Honestly, not even I was sure how I felt.
まあとにかくこれで2対2っていうことだよな。
The only thing I could say for sure was that he had stuck his nose where he shouldn't have. No turning back now. Nothing I could say would make him retreat. Not that these bastards would let him.
バカが。
He really was a bona fide idiot. No sane person would willingly get involved with this bloodshed. For sure, being a bit of a nutjob was hardly news to me. Despite knowing it was pointless, I still addressed him.
帰れよ、シロ。
I was mentally begging for him to just go.
嫌だね。さっきも言ったろうが。俺が動くのをお前に止められる覚えはねえ。あんま束縛きつすぎると人間関係うまくいかんぜ。バカスミにしろ俺にしろ、お前の都合に合わせて生きてるわけじゃねえんだし。お前にとっちゃ人生主役はお前だろうが、 俺にとっちゃ俺が主役だ。脇役の言うことなんか聞かねえっての。
That's actually some wise words, got to admit.
なあ、そうだろうが。違うかよ。
I simply glared at him in silence. In the end, it was Wilhelm who ultimately spoke up.
よあ、てめえさっきから何好き勝手なことペラ回してやがる。いきなり出てきて気持ちよくラリってんじゃねえぞ、小僧が。うるせえ、黙れ。
A thunderous roar. No, 3 roars broke out in succession. Sparks flew from Short's gun as if to tell Wilhelm he was wasting his breath.
こっちが話してる最中だろうが。口挟むなよ、白髪野郎。
This guy really knew no fear. To shoot at someone twice while his station only went to show that he shot 3 times. He was even more screwed up in the head than before. Right, I think they... Just a second though. 3 roars, so 3 times. But this time he picked the wrong guy to mess with.
おい、進歩のねえガキだな、お前も。
Wilhelm appeared more irritated and astonished as he brushed his fingers along his chest, where the bullets hit, sending the crushed pieces of metal to fall to the pavement with a clink.
前にも言ったろ、学習しろや、劣等人種。
Right, guns didn't work on these bastards. I could only hope that gave Shiro enough of a hint.
一緒に戦ってくれなんて頼んでない。悪いことは言わないから早く逃げろよ。
まったく釣れないね、どいつもこいつも。
And this jackass could still go on laughing, despite the situation.
なあレン、あいつ俺にやらせろよ。チンピラはチンピラ同士、優等生は優等生同士。お前、女丸め込むの得意だろ。
On Wilgrams. God, where did he get all that stupid compulsion from?
2対2でちょうどいい。俺はあいつで、お前は。
Her. True, my goal today was to beat her, but Wilhelm wasn't someone you could pass off as a joke. She was only getting in the way. I couldn't afford to worry about him, but what I was supposed to do Kasumi if Shiro did end up getting himself killed? Am I the only one thinking that he might be the user of the powers as well, somehow?
つまらないわね。
Sakura spoke up, her voice interrupting my inner conflict.
もう手遅れよ。だって。
今さら逃がすとでも思ってんのか。これも前に言ったよな。俺を攻撃した以上、次なんかねえ。
The die had already been cast. Probably death, but whatever. There was no going back now. So at the very least, it would be for the best to eliminate one of them as quickly as possible in a 2-on-1 confrontation, preferably a stronger one, in other words, Wilhelm. In order to do that, I did perfect mutual understanding with my partner, but... well...
ところで、今月の星占いにあったんだけどよ。俺ってほら、魚座じゃん？どうも蟹座と相性いいらしいのよ。
I no longer That's a good one, actually. I no longer had any clue what was going through his mind.
お前、何座だったっけ？動物系だっけ？物系だっけ？つがおい、ノリ悪いんだよさっきから。お前もしかして餃子とかヤクザとかブリザード級のギャグ言おうとしてるんじゃないだろうな。
そんなわけないだろう。
His potion was not just giving me a headache, it downright made me dizzy. On second thought, maybe he would be better off dead, after having me alongside rest the idiot behind me.
フォローなんか期待するなよ。
そりゃ俺のセリフだっつの。
Jesus, why did I have to stand back to back with this guy now of all times? I thought we'd never see each other again. We may have had this unpleasant but inseparable kind of relationship, but goddamn.
喧嘩の蹴りはどっちがこれに生き残るかでつけようや。
He was talking like one of us was going to die.
じゃあてめえらよ。
An ominous shockwave gushed out of Wilhelm's right hand in an instant. It was his nervous activation. Seeing how it wasn't quite formation, Shiro's human eyes probably weren't able to perceive it.
揃って死ね。
He fired off an invisible stake in our direction with the casual movement of someone trying to squash a bug. The shocking part came right after that. I tried to push Shiro out of the way, but the only thing I felt was thin air. He reacted to the attack faster than I did.
舐めすぎだろお前
Not only that, he thrust his gun right at Wilhelm's temple. Then pulled the trigger. The sheer swiftness of his actions earned an impressed look from her. I myself was completely taken aback. A mere human like Shiro was able to dodge and duck from another back, close the distance between himself and Wilhelm, and shoot the bastard at point-blank range. Unbelievable! Naturally, it wasn't a fatal act by any stretch of the imagination, but this still should have been impossible.
あなた、何？
ああ見てわかるだろただの通りすがりのイケメンだよ
Up until now, Shiro was nothing but an out-of-place intruder. Now he stood out more than anyone else here. Although Wilhelm wasn't hurt by their air attack, he still ended up being forced to take a few steps back.
へえなんだよ意外に色男なんだなお前
Wilhelm's sunglasses were smashed, exposing his bare, emotionless face. He simply glared at Shiro in silence, displaying no response to his provocation. And then,
レオ気が変わったそっちのガキはお前がやれ
わかった。
話はまとまったみたいだなつうことだとよレンんな顔すんなよさっきの見たろ俺もまあそう捨てたもんじゃねえんだからさ
みたいだな。
I wasn't sure how it happened, but he didn't appear to be normal either. Well, not the same guy he was 2 months ago at least. Well, you changed a bit as well, right?
じゃあそういうことで
This unexpected confrontation ultimately culminated in the following state of affairs. I'd be taking it on that bitch, while Shiro would be find that asshole. Wilhelm Ehrenberg pondered. Although a scoundrel who acted superior to everyone else, Wilhelm still had a keen eye for all things concerning battles. His narcissistic traits had never placed him in an unfavorable situation, not once. As such, even as he felt himself trembling with blinding rage, he continued to calmly analyze the opponent standing before him. The boy was undoubtedly human. He sensed none of the grim atmosphere particular to one who had been blessed with the ways of sorcery. Then how in the world had he?
まあ何にせよクリストフとやり合って命拾ったのは伊達じゃねえっていうわけか
Interesting. He'd considered him to be a mere small fry, but it seemed like he'd proved to be significantly more fun than expected. Even in the face of the ivory demon's beastly gaze, likely to cause most to faint, she remained calm, with a smile on his lips. The boy was likely a bold one to begin with, yet Wilhelm's senses hadn't dealt enough to be content with such an explanation. He acknowledged the young man's exceptional athletic ability and realized he was no stranger to violent fights. But the terrifyingly colossal gap between his and Wilhelm's strength should have been evident to the boy. He should have realized that victory was but a pipe dream. Fear, uneasiness, anxiety? None of these self-preservative traits must have functioned properly in Shiro. He was enjoying being caught between a rock and a hard place.
そうかなるほどそういうことかい
Only one conclusion remained. This was revenge. Assuming that Santi had really taken leave of him, the boy was burning up his last drops of fuel, pushing his body's performance to its limits. His cockpit, his brain, had neither seatbelt nor parachute.
ずいぶんと懐かしいじゃねえかよおいこれも野郎のふざけた遊びかそれともただの偶然かまあどっちでも構わねえがよ何が原因でそうなったにしろお前もう長くはないぜ
Whether they were separating his sense of pain or amplifying his 5 senses, the intracerebral narcotics that caused those effects were generally powerful and short-lived drug. It was as though the young man's body had been locked in a perpetual state of life-threatening situation response, all of its limits removed.
思想が見えるぜガキそうなって生き残ったやつはいねえああだから
Shiro snorted, clearly not caring in the slightest.
そんなの今は関係ねえさ分かってるのはお前ら変態相手にしても俺はある程度遊べるってこといや
もしかしたらやれるかもしれねえぞ。
Arrogance, nonsense, there was no knowing one's place. And then there was this, but even if he was bluffing, he still had balls to say it. Not bad.
バカが来やがるぜクソガキが。笑わせてくれるよ、面白い。
はは、そりゃよかったよ注意殿。マジで暴れんのは久しぶりで、調子出ねえなら手加減しようか。
なんだお前、ひよって俺とやり合いてえのか。
まさかバカこけ。
Shir's coat fluttered as he laughed off Wilhelm's barrage of nonsensical questions.
さっきレンのやつは強い方から潰そうと考えてたみたいだが、そりゃ違うよな。ごちゃまんするときはまず弱いやつを潰すんだよ。確実に消せるところから消していく。つまり
Naturally, this team-up was born for that very reason.
あのガキがレオンをやるまでの間、お前は俺の足止めか。なるほど、意外に目端が利くじゃねえかよ。だが正直あの坊ちゃんに女を殺せるかどうかは疑問だぜ。何せ猿同士ガキ同士共感するところもあるだろうしな。
まあそりゃ実際怪しいとこだが、あいつはあれで結構容赦ない性格もしてるんだよ。場合によっちゃガキでも遠慮なんかしやしねえよ。それにそも
The desert eagle glimmered with a blank luster in the dark of night. She was spinning all 2 kilograms of the world's most powerful pistol with his left index finger as he made another jovial remark.
俺は一言もお前が強い方だとは言ってないぜ。
An orchestra of blinding muzzle flashed as the deafening roars burst forth in an instant, a series of bafflingly impossible curved shots that completely disregarded all the basics and theories of proper ballistics. Normally, anyone who tried to pull off a stunt like that with such a large caliber gun would sooner destroy their own wrist than the ground target. However,
それなら聞くが、一番弱えのは誰だ小僧。
Shiro's desert eagle rounds went flying toward his opponent's midline, heading for all vital spots from his brow to his heart without even the slightest bit of deviation. The Emperor was dead. Wilhelm ended up catching them all with his bare hands. As the crushed bullets scattered on the ground, Wilhelm went on with a taunt.
今さらこんなもんは挨拶代わりにもならねえぞ。何か手があるならさっさと見せな。いくらか丈夫で鈍感ってだけのやつが他に芸もなく俺の前に立ったってんならお前。
Wilhelm's body began to tremble. His relaxed movements and posture reminiscent of that of a predator about to sink its fangs into its prey.
死んじまうぜ。
The blow launched by Wilhelm was merciless, brimming with strength and exhibiting speed far surpassing any human standards. A full-blown attack of his current, assai a degree without even the slightest hint of restraint. In other words, this was a test of sorts. If his opponent was a normal human, he'd likely die in one shot with no hope of a counterattack. But should he survive, even for a few seconds, he could be classified as a low-grade superhuman. In which case, he'd be worth devouring right here and now. In the end, Shiro passed that magnificently dangerous test with flying colors. He used a completely different method to stave off a strike that would otherwise be impossible to evade or block, through mere human strength, reflexes and stamina. The blow itself was impossible to dodge. Besides, the average man would likely be completely paralyzed by fear. With his sense of danger lacking, the only thing Shiro could do was hit Wilhelm's arms with the grip of his gun. He handled it like a knife, for due to its unwieldy shape it allowed for just a single trajectory. At a glance it appeared to be no more than a futile struggle on his part. But that in itself did not prove to be a problem in this case. If one could not evade an attack altogether, all it came down to was to avoiding a direct hit, and so he did. Shiro was sent flying, as though he had just come into contact with a speeding train car. He wasn't even swept away by the attack itself, but the air pressure it generated. Wilhelm couldn't help but show a hint of admiration at his opponent's unexpected method of dodging. Naturally, Shiro didn't escape from that unscathed. He suffered a severe dislocation. A wrong move and his bones would have shattered into pieces. However, the fact remained that he escaped with minimum possible injury. Furthermore, he likely paid no heed to the wound of this caliber. The way he kept firing his gun without missing a beat, despite flying through the air after what should have been a severely painful collision, stood testament to it. There was no longer any doubt that Shiro felt no pain whatsoever. After taking each bullet head-on without dodging, a brisk sensation of numbness spread all throughout Wilhelm's body. His eyes glimmered in a dangerous hue of crimson like embers, while his canines began to extend. After performing a flawless landing, Shiro rose to his feet and flashed a confident smile.
おっかねえな。スイッチ入っちまったみてえじゃねえの。
Indeed, Shiro's actions only seemed to hasten his own downfall. While his previous exchange of blows with Wilhelm was admirable, he might have been luckier if he had perished then and there. The reason was simple.
いいぞお前、悪くねえ。
Most who provoked the Ever Demon to this extent had met a fate far worse than death.
ギリギリ合格ってことにしてやろう。お前の魂、俺がすぐに値すると認めてやる。
For he was the merciless Kazi-Klubei, a demon who literally thirsted for the blood of others.
誇れやこそ。ただの人間相手に怠慢でこれ使うのは30年ぶりくらいだよ。名乗りな。覚えといてやる。
The very air began to sway and tremble, heralding the descent of something monumentally sinister. Wicked energy spurted up like a heat haze, shrouding the vicinity in the foul stench of blood. Surrounded by a kind of miasma that would make lesser men vacate the contents of their stomachs, Shiro went on in a calm tone.
ユサシロってんだ。忘れていいぜ。どうせお前すぐにくたばっちまうんだからよ。
The shockwaves of Wilhelm's booming cackle pulverized the pavement, destroying even nearby streetlights. Still shaken by a violent fit of laughter, the ivory demon recalled how much he enjoyed toying with prey like this. Yeah, the brat had a bite to match his bark. He would keep things entertaining enough until Wilhelm finally chose to devour his soul. He earnestly hoped the boy would do anything to kill the mood.
俺が死ぬだと？
ああ、思想が見えるぜ。
At that moment, his body, that had up till now been so balanced he could pass off as a ballet dancer, began to twist and bend. He bulged, undulated, and started wriggling like an amoeba. Almost like the blood in his body had a will of its own.
ならそれ外れだ。夜の俺は死なねえ。死なせてくれなんだよ。こいつらがな。
The moment he uttered those words, that very blood exploded. Culminating in the blooming of the foreign plants that had been cultivated within the seedbed of his body. Yet they sported neither flowers nor leaves, neither sap nor fruits. All they possessed was the most wicked of essences, for they were the extensions of his bloodlust, and a manifestation of his fangs, all throbbing in synchrony with the beating of his heart.
こりゃまた。
Even Shiro found himself at a loss for words, astonished even. The destroyed pavement around Wilhelm crumbled to sound, while the still flickering streetlights vanished without a trace. They completely and literally withered away. Squeezed for everything they had like Quilof, the tree of death, Wilhelm drained life from all around him, bade water or electricity, and claimed it for himself. Inorganic substances were no exception, either. One hardly needed too much of an imagination. To picture exactly what would befall any living creature devoured by it.
一つ忠告してやるよ。
Despite being covered from head to toe in the stench of blood, Wilhelm's voice remained contrastively gentle. His words held no falsity, no pretense, only the truth, bare and exposed.
こうなると手加減できねえ。限り出すんだよ。こいつらがよ。
A splitting thunderous roar shook the vicinity, like the explosion of a cannonball. He couldn't see, nor perceive, a thing, sure realized that in fact he only heard the roar of an explosion after the blast had already happened. As such, all of his actions were but a result of reflexes, mere superhuman reactions unshackled by the conscious mind. Although the very fact he had prepared the stage to lead to this in the first place could be interpreted as a premeditated action. In truth, the only thing that betrayed his expectation was the scale of the feat his opponent had pulled off. The vending machine he aimlessly dug behind for cover was crushed like an empty box of cigarettes. To make matters worse, its blown away mass had turned to a lethal weapon crashing straight to the shearer. And that was hardly all. A blood-stained stake shot in his direction, piercing right through the giant lobe of iron, veiling his vision. Shearer let out an audible cry of pain. Though the stake didn't hit him directly, it managed to take out a chunk from his flank. Once he sent both Shearer and the vending machine flying, Wilhelm chased after his prey and lashed a punch at him from above. The only thing that saved Shearer from the fate of getting skewered and pinned under the machine was his series of acrobatic moves made possible only through his inhuman reflexes. As such, what transpired could only be described as a miracle. Once Shearer managed to perform a one-handed back handspring to put some distance between himself and Wilhelm, the latter shot a stake after him. First shot was instinct, the second one was fate. Formation had made them visible, their speed exceeded kinetic vision to begin with. With their power doubled, they were dangerous beyond compare. However, in spite of that, his target dodged them, evaded them. Wilhelm couldn't lay a single hit. The numbing hit, the nose-eating shudders and chills, the scar on his flank, amounting to no more than a graze, aged with a pain a billion times more maddening in intensity than his dislocated elbow. His agony was not physical in nature, for it felt like a funk had been thrust deep into his very spirit. The accursed weapon violated and devoured the soul, tormenting his prey with a complete disregard for its resilience to pain. Naturally, she neither knew nor comprehended any such principles. There was but one thing he knew, or rather thought. He was dying to roll on the floor and laugh his head off. He felt pain, dread joy, and above all else rage, wretched indignation, and the only way to express that cornucopia of emotions was through laughter. The true abnormality occurred right afterwards. Wilhelm launched a fierce attack consisting of entire scores of stakes capable of skewering a normal person 100 times over. Yet not a single one of them managed to hit their target. A hail of projectiles, like spears held at the ready, showered down upon Shearer, yet he dodged them all while charging ever onwards. Wilhelm paused in amazement. Anyone would have likely done the same in his shoes. Shearer was not fast at all. He was slow, even, at the very least. Being able to dodge the incessant barrage of stakes should have far exceeded his physical capabilities. So how was he pulling it off? No one should have been repeatedly that lucky. Shearer uttered those absurd remarks right in Wilhelm's face. No man had ever gotten this close to Wilhelm without being hit even once. He had not seen anything this abnormal in his whole 8 decades of carnage and murder. Shearer struck Wilhelm on the chest as though he was casually messing around with his best buddy. All the while flashing a smile of a kid who'd been caught pulling a prank.
今たまたまそのモードに入ったっつうだけだけどな。四六時中ってわけじゃないんだぜ。だからショック受けんなよ注意殿。別にあんたがしょぼいとか言うわけじゃねえんだしよ。
At that moment, almost like he was trying to shoo away a pesky fly, Wilhelm sent Shearer flying with a single wave of his arm. demonstrating him the letter's painfully average speed and resilience for all to see. The sight of it made one question whether or not Shiro's prior acrobatics had all been real. Wilhelm was left thoroughly confused. He couldn't understand what that deal was with this guy. Was he strong or weak? Was he a joke or was he for real? He couldn't tell, nor he was in any condition for long-winded pondering right now. Anger, shame and delight. Even if forming his weapon didn't leave him unable to form all but the simplest of faults, Wilhelm would have abandoned pursuing those questions and further. For his blood danced in exaltation, his heart throbbed with joy. Kazuki Klupe surrendered his blood to pure and undiluted frenzy in the face of such a mysterious unusual prey. He felt like a million bucks. His voice trembled with passion to the point it made him slur his words. Wilhelm made it his mission to devour the brat, no matter what he had in store for him.
トマ、せっかく乗ってきたとこ悪いけどよ。
Shiro sat up and winked.
The end. Bye bye.
Hasta la vista, baby. With the crack of thunder, he shot a bullet aimed straight at Wilhelm's heart. A pointless attempt, of course, for mere bullets could not harm a knight of the obsidian round table. However, Shiro had touched Wilhelm there just a few seconds ago, and the latter didn't bother to check why he did that. And a moment later, two abnormalities occurred. Okay, I don't know what the hell you were talking about, but it was really bad moment to stop. And it is also a bad moment to end the episode, but I will do that anyway. Sorry about that, but you know, 4 AM almost. I have to hit the song. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. I actually look forward to what Shiro and Wilhelm is doing. This situation right now, not really. Anywho, bye bye. Good night actually from me.